Oh, okay, Congressman King, thank you so much for your time. Um, I just want to talk to you a little bit. First of all, why are you in New Hampshire? It's kind of funny. My first time interviewing, I'm out in New Hampshire. I have
It
to,
is, isn't it? Although we've talked in Iowa, we just
yeah,
haven't been able to do this on
hmm
a video as we are right now.
yeah,
And the answer is that sometime back last January, we sat down with some very good political thinkers. We sat down in Iowa
hmm
and talked about how the First of the Nation caucus needs to be tied together with the First of the Nation primary. And if we could do that, we could tie together Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and in a way move forward to try to advance candidates that are constitutional conservatives, full spectrum conservatives, and hopefully we'll be able to get behind a candidate who can carry the banner all the way into the White House in November 2012.
all right, great. Um, as far as 2012, are you thinking about making an endorsement later on down the road? You're just going to be neutral the whole way through?
Well, I'm thinking about making an endorsement. Now, I endorsed, I thought, later than I should have last time. And this time, I'll certainly keep my powder dry until after the straw poll in Ames, which is, I believe, August 13th. If that's a
hmm
Saturday, that's the date. And the other side of the straw poll, then things start to move pretty quickly in this nomination process.
hmm
And by the time we get into the caucus, which could be very early in February, then that period of time from straw poll to the caucus is a period of time when you can help a candidate the most. So hopefully I'll reach a commitment and a conviction. I want my head and my guts to be saying the same thing to me, and I
Sure,
like to jump in with both feet enthusiastically if I
definitely.
can get to that point.
What kind of criteria are you looking for?
Full spectrum conservatism, I want a fiscal and social conservative that believes in national defense, and then someone whom you know are grounded in the Constitution and free market values, and someone who understands that America is a gift from God, and that there's an American destiny that goes beyond even the shining city on the hill, that takes us up to the next level of our destiny. And as I'm listening to the presidential candidates, I'm starting to formulate ideas on how they think about where America's been and how they think about where America can go.
What would be the next level of our destiny in your mind?
Well, in my mind, is we expand the freedom and liberty that we have today. A lot of it's been diminished over the years with the expansion of the welfare state. There are 77 different means-tested welfare programs that are federal
hmm
here in the United States. And there's got to be a way to consolidate, to reduce them, and to reward people for work, savings, and investment. There's got to be a way to reward people for building and growing strong families. And the productivity in this country is diminished because we're paying people not to work
hmm
rather than rewarding people for producing goods and services that have a marketable value domestically and at home. So I believe, of course, that we are the unchallenged greatest nation in the world, but we have to maintain that position by a growing and expanding economy and an ever-strengthening core of our civilization and our core values, which are faith and family.
Great. Um, you have an opponent now. At least we know the Democrats are fielding somebody, and it was, obviously had the news that Congressman Latham was going to move down to this third district. What are your thoughts about this upcoming race? She's probably going to be the most high-profile person you've ever run against. Um, Her husband called this a potential holy war. So thoughts going in as far as strategy and dealing with the new district and uh, anyway.
Well, the first response, and the one that I will give for some time, is that anyone that announces that they formed an exploratory committee and that they intend to challenge me in the general election in 2012 still has to first get through a potential primary. The filing deadline for that is someplace near March 15th of next year. And then there's still the primary test that takes place in June, early June of next year. So there's more than a year to go before we can determine who might be my opponent, and I can't guarantee that I will be the nominee either. So I could have a primary. But in the meanwhile, here's what I need to do is this. Take care of the counties in the Southwest District of Iowa that I will no longer have the privilege to represent after 2012. And I've made a couple of trips down there now to assure them that I'm going to sprint through the tape and do my job that I'm sworn to do in representing them. And we'll carry on beyond that if I have anything to say about it, and I hope to. Then solidify my position in the northwest corner of the state in the counties that I currently represent and that I hope to represent after 2012, while we build a foundation in the new counties in the east. And it's likely that this will turn into a national race, and that means that there'll be nationwide fundraising. There will be ads that are bought and paid for and run. Very likely, let me say, unfavorable ads that come from 527s.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So let's tighten our belt and brace up for this.
Emily's list already kind of lifted up. Christie Vilsack is, a model person for them. I can't remember exactly the word, title they gave her, but it's left is going to be coming at you hard, I'm sure.
I think everywhere from Emily's list to the Trial Lawyers Association to Michael Moore himself will be engaged in this, and we will see people from the other side show up in Iowa, and perhaps the president. In fact, very likely the president himself showing up in Iowa. So part of this job is that we need to continue to win this debate at the national level. We've won the debate on the need to repeal Obamacare, and I think that I've emerged as a singular voice on the repeal of Obamacare. I'm going to stay on that issue. The Obama agenda has been abysmal, which is why his re-elect numbers are at a rock bottom low level for him at least, and for most any president that I can think of. And all of this will be tied together. If the president is strong, it's going to make it harder for all Republicans in the country. If the president's weak, of course, it's going to make it harder for the Democrats that would like to ride his coattails.
Definitely. Let's see. Recently, we just got the news last week that King and Spalding decided to pull or not to defend DOMA law on behalf of Congress. Thoughts on that?
Well, yes, I could only hear part of that, but it looks to me. Could you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Yeah. It's basically King and Spalding, the legal firm that said they were going to represent the Congress on defending DOMA since President Obama decided not to defend it anymore. They pulled out because of pressure that they were receiving, and law schools saying we won't allow you to come and come to hiring fairs and things like that. They pulled out. Thoughts on? I mean, it'd be easy, I think, for the House leadership to say, "Well, man, this is becoming really difficult to defend," and just kind of, squirm away from it. What are your thoughts about the House leadership? Do you think they're going to stay firm on defending DOMA and go forward?
I've been doing a lot of traveling, so I missed some of the details, but I did know that there was an issue. I just didn't recognize the law firm. And so my thoughts on it are that John Boehner didn't equivocate and he didn't hesitate. When the subject came up some weeks ago, when the White House announced that they would not defend DOMA, John Boehner announced that we would defend DOMA. But I don't think at that point he actually had a path on how we were going to do it.
Okay.
And didn't need to. He's made a commitment, and I'll be asking him to help us keep that commitment. Somebody's going to defend DOMA. And I'll say that the president is not keeping faith with his constitutional oath. The oath to take care that the laws are faithfully enforced. And Eric Holder, who is not defending DOMA, is taking orders, I think, from the president. Nobody thinks that's Eric Holder's decision. And so when the Justice Department doesn't defend the law, when the president orders the Justice Department to refuse to defend the law, in fact, when the president apparently ordered Eric Holder to sue Arizona over the immigration law, this is an appalling thing to see that the Justice Department has been so politicized. On the other hand, I don't need a shoeless Joe Jackson in there defending DOMA before the Supreme Court, and that would be what Eric Holder is. If you have somebody that's ready to throw the game, you don't want to trust them with something as important as marriage or the Constitution. So let's go back and find a good firm that will do a good job of defending DOMA, and then in this one, let's see if we can keep Eric Holder and the Solicitor General out of the courtroom, because we know their heart's not in it.
Kind of looking at the continuing resolution that was just voted on recently, it seemed like, in my mind, Republicans kind of gave away the farm on that, because that deal that was made was even less of a deal as it came out later. How are they going to stand firm on, and what leverage are they going to have to stand firm on the 2012 budget they'll be coming up in those discussions, when it seemed like here, we had a good leverage point and we gave it away?
Well, I'm less confident than I was a couple of months ago. To simplify this, I believe that we should have drawn the very bright line, which you heard me say here today in Manchester, and said no funding to implement or enforce Obamacare. And Mr. President, I don't care what you do. You can veto bill after bill. We'll keep sending them over to you, funding the government in a legitimate, fiscally responsible fashion, but no money for Obamacare in any circumstances. And I would hold that line. But what we ended up with was we didn't hold the line on the Obamacare piece of this. We didn't hold the line on the Planned Parenthood piece of it. Instead, it was supposed to be $100 billion, which became $61 billion, which became $38.5 billion, and according to the CBO, and it is depressing to even utter the words. According to them, it became $352 million.
Yeah.
Now, it looks to me like that's, I think, 0.48 of 1% of the original promise, which is just deflates us all. So I think that now is the time then to brace up. Let's put some titanium in our spines, and let's dig in anew and get everything that we can get. And if the Ryan budget can be adhered to all the way through this appropriations process, it will be a surprise. But even then, it won't be a solution because our budget doesn't balance except until 28 years are up, even under the Ryan budget, which puts me in a position of telling my 3 sons who are in their early 30s, you'll be ready for retirement before you, and having worked your entire working life with the federal government operating in the red.
Yeah.
Now, who would go through their entire working life and think that's a reasonable solution? That's not soon enough for me.
Yeah. Very good. One last question, because I know you're going to have to take off here. I've been hearing whispers around the room. We got, when you and Senator DeMint were up here front, we got our presidential ticket up here, King DeMint. Thoughts on that?
If Jim DeMint will run, I'll think about it. But as what I told him today is that, being president would be a lot easier than having to fight the one we have.
Definitely. Very true. Congressman, thank you so much for your time.
It's my privilege. Thank you, Shane.